What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Let's be completely honest with ourselves for a second before we jump into the absolute madness of Dunder Mifflin. Think about what you were doing just a few moments ago. You were probably sitting on your couch, laying in bed, or trying to avoid some boring daily chores while mindlessly scrolling through an endless abyss of social media feeds. We all do it. It is the modern psychological trap of our daily routines. But then, out of nowhere, you stumble upon a specific type of video, a compilation of a fictional paper company located in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And suddenly, your entire mood changes. Today, we are doing a deep dive into a massive viral compilation titled Office Cold Opens to Watch While Doing Chores. If you are a casual viewer of television, you might think a cold open is just a random throwaway joke before the main plot of an episode kicks in. But if you are a fan of comedy writing, you know that the cold opens of The Office are essentially miniature masterclasses in narrative efficiency. They are self-contained, high-concept, 3-minute short films that perfectly capture the tragicomic reality of the modern American workplace. Why do these specific snippets hold such a tight grip on our collective consciousness? How did a show that initially struggled to find its identity end up creating the most rewatchable pieces of content on the internet? In this review, we are breaking down the structural brilliance of these scenes, from the identity crisis of Stanley's face to the absolute physical delusion of the parkour trend. The compilation launches into an absolute masterstroke of situational irony with the great Stanley mustache debate. The setup is brilliantly simple. Stanley Hudson is returning to the office after a hospital stay, and the staff is signing a get well card. Michael Scott tries to write a classic, arguably inappropriate joke about a mustachectomy. But then Pam Beesly throws a wrench into the entire corporate ecosystem by asking a terrifying question. Wait, does Stanley even have a mustache? What follows is an incredible psychological study of corporate apathy. These people have spent 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week for over a decade, sitting in a room with Stanley. Yet, when pushed to visualize his face, their brains completely short-circuit. Phyllis, who sits directly across from him every single day, completely folds under pressure. She goes from being totally certain to changing her mind 3 times in 30 seconds. The office breaks down into a binary voting block, Team Mustache versus Team No Mustache. The tension builds to a comedic peak as the elevator doors slide open and Stanley walks into the office. The camera zooms in and the mustache is right there. This cold open works so spectacularly because it holds up a mirror to the psychological compartmentalization of office life. We do not actually look at our coworkers. We coexist in a state of professional survival where we see people without truly seeing them. It is a beautifully subtle joke wrapped in an absolute circus of whiteboard sketches. Immediately after the chaotic energy of the mustache debate, the compilation takes a sharp turn into 2 distinct types of workplace desperation: intellectual boredom and emotional isolation. First, we see Michael trying to engage the office with low-tier brain teasers. He throws out the classic 2 coins totaling 15 cents riddle. Dwight Schrute, acting as the overly eager teacher's pet, tries to overanalyze it, but the rest of the office just ignores him because they have all heard it before. Michael's desperation for attention is palpable here. He moves from the coin riddle to a dark joke about a man hanging from a ceiling to a polar bear riddle. It is a brilliant showcase of Michael's core character trait. He cannot handle silence. To Michael, a quiet office is a dead office, and a dead office means he is failing as a leader. Now, let's move from the emotional subplots into pure, unadulterated physical comedy. The parkour cold open is legendary, and seeing it in this compilation reminds us of why the middle seasons of the show had such a distinct high-octane energy. Michael introduces this as the internet sensation of 2004, noting its appearance in a James Bond film. The premise of parkour is simple: getting from point A to point B as creatively as possible. But as Jim brilliantly observes from his desk, technically they are doing parkour as long as point A is delusion and point B is the hospital. What makes this sequence an absolute masterpiece of physical comedy is the commitment of the actors. Steve Carell, Rainn Wilson, and Ed Helms threw themselves into these stunts. They are not doing actual parkour. They are literally just jumping onto office furniture, rolling across desks, knocking over plants, and yelling the word parkour as if the vocalization itself validates their movements. The climax of the open takes place in the parking lot. They plan a complex route from a delivery truck to refrigerators to a dumpster, followed by a backflip gainer into a trash can. Andy Bernard, fueled by his need to impress Michael and Dwight, screams hardcore parkour and leaps off a roof straight into a cardboard box that completely collapses. The immediate cut back to reality, the illusion instantly shattering the moment physical pain enters the equation, is a masterclass in comedic timing. It represents that specific era of television where internet culture was starting to bleed heavily into traditional media, and The Office captured that cultural shift better than anyone else. The compilation then takes us into a festive but dark scenario with the Christmas goose incident. Dwight arrives at the office carrying a dead goose, cheerfully wishing everyone a Merry Christmas. The immediate reaction from the office is utter horror. Dwight cannot understand why everyone is upset, explaining that he accidentally ran over it and considers it a Christmas miracle. Because it is the holiday season, he intends to roast the goose and prepare it with a wild rice dressing right there in the office kitchen. He even asks Jim to watch the dead bird while he goes to get his carving knife out of his car trunk. Toby tries to step in and establish some basic workplace boundaries, but Dwight's defense is classic Schrute farming logic. The comedy here comes from the complete clash of cultures. Dwight is operating on centuries-old agrarian survival instincts, while the rest of the staff is just trying to work a corporate job without witnessing animal processing next to the copy machine. So, when we look back at this massive compilation, what is the ultimate takeaway? Why do these clips remain the premier choice for people looking to escape the stresses of daily life? It is because The Office cracked the code on short-form storytelling long before modern digital platforms ever existed. A great cold open doesn't require you to remember what happened in the previous episode or understand a complex story arc. It drops you straight into a universally relatable human situation, boredom, a workplace debate, a ridiculous internet trend, or a terrible holiday routine, and resolves it with a killer punchline within 3 minutes. They take the mundane, exhausting, and often soul-crushing elements of modern corporate life and transform them into a cozy, hysterical sanctuary. That is going to do it for today's review. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Dunder Mifflin history, make sure to show some support to the channel, drop a comment below, and let me know which cold open from this compilation is your absolute favorite. Thank you so much for tuning in, stay safe out there, and I will see you all in the very next video. Take care.